Hello everyone and welcome to my Sister Wives For You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Janelle Brown has always carried herself as the calm, steady heartbeat of the sprawling Sister Wives family, but fans were completely shaken when she returned to social media and shared a heartbreaking loss that instantly sent shockwaves throughout the Brown universe, sparking a tidal wave of concern, sympathy, and speculation over what had happened behind the scenes as she continues rebuilding her life post-Cody, post-chaos, and post-plural marriage pressure. In a raw and vulnerable moment that few ever expected from the famously grounded and private Janelle, she revealed that she had suffered a devastating personal loss that left her spirit rattled and her followers stunned, triggering conversations about grief, faith, and resilience in ways that fans hadn't seen since the tumultuous days of her public split from Cody Brown. The emotional revelation came out of nowhere, dropped quietly but heavily on her feed as if the weight of her own sorrow could no longer be carried in silence, and it immediately reopened long-buried questions about what she had endured behind closed doors while trying to hold together a family structure that so often left her giving more than she ever received. As soon as the heartbreaking update went live, thousands of viewers rushed to comfort her, assembling online like a virtual village, reminding her she was not alone, but the sadness in her tone was unmistakably deeper than the surface-level optimism she usually tries to radiate, as if something central to her stability had suddenly gone missing. Janelle has always been known as the practical one, the wife who managed bills, schedules, logistics, and survival while the emotional storms swirled endlessly around Cody's shifting alliances, Robin's tears, Christine's freedom quest, and Mary's unending loneliness. Yet this time, she was no longer the manager of chaos. She was the woman at the center of a pain so sharp it forced even her critics to pause. While she didn't immediately reveal every detail of the heartbreaking loss, it became clear through her tone and the aching sincerity in her words that this wasn't about fame, attention, or storyline embellishment. This was something profoundly real, something that had struck at the core of her world, leaving her in a haze of grief that she had previously only hinted at in the quietest corners of interviews, never fully exposing the true depths of her emotional battles. Fans began speculating, wondering whether she had lost a close family member, a cherished pet, a piece of her identity, or something that symbolized the life she had fought so long to build, and many remembered her heartbreaking revelation after Garrison's passing, a tragedy that had permanently imprinted itself on her heart and reshaped the very way she looked at motherhood, loss, and the fragility of time. For some viewers, her newest message felt like another echo of that crushing pain, a reminder that grief doesn't have an expiration date and that healing is not a straight line, especially for a woman who constantly pushed her own feelings aside so she could attend to everyone else's. As support flooded in, some noticed that her post also carried an undercurrent of reflection, almost as if she was combining past grief with a present loss, weaving together memories, regrets, and lessons into one shared emotional space where she could finally admit that her journey has not been simply one of empowerment and new beginnings, but also one where the ghosts of the past walk beside her more often than she publicly lets on. Observers began discussing how much Janelle shouldered during the darkest years of the Brown family, when she was stuck in the middle of loyalty battles, financial stress, Cody's unpredictable moods, and the slow unraveling of the plural marriage structure that once promised connection but ended up delivering division. Her heartbreaking loss immediately reignited conversations about how deeply she had been affected by everything, from feeling unsupported in Flagstaff, to watching her family splinter, to trying to stay strong for her kids after moving into an RV while Cody remained comfortably settled in Robin's multi-million-dollar home. People noted that loss, for Janelle, comes in layers: losing stability, losing trust, losing partnership, losing a son, and now losing something else that left her already strained heart even more tender. What made the moment even more gut-wrenching was how alone she potentially feels in this chapter of her life, not because she lacks children or fans, but because the person she once relied on to shoulder life's burdens with her simply wasn't there anymore, emotionally or physically. long before their marriage officially ended. Even though she has built a new form of independence, one that fans admire and celebrate, grief has a way of exposing the hidden cracks under even the strongest foundations. Her followers were struck by her honesty, noting that for years she had quietly endured more than she ever voiced, always trying to maintain the image of balance, fairness, and togetherness even when the Brown family's internal fractures were obvious to everyone else. Now, with this fresh, heartbreaking loss, her guards seemed to finally fall. People also couldn't help but compare her emotional transparency to Cody's seemingly self-focused reactions to previous family tragedies, remembering how he often redirected attention toward his own frustrations rather than comforting the women who had stood by him for decades. In contrast, Janelle's grief was pure, unfiltered, and human. It wasn't about blame, drama, or deflection. It was about acknowledging that life had delivered another heavy blow, one she could not hide from the world no matter how much she wanted to. Fans pointed out how heartbreaking it was to see her face the brunt of life's tragedies while also trying to rebuild her future from scratch, exploring wellness, detoxing, traveling, and redefining herself as a single woman in her 50s, all while burdened by losses no mother, no woman, no person should ever have to endure. Yet, even in her sadness, Janelle radiated a kind of unbreakable softness, a reminder that strength isn't always loud or bold. Sometimes it's found in the moments when you admit your heart is breaking and you let people show up for you. Some followers speculated that her loss may be connected to something symbolic, perhaps the end of a dream, a project she had invested her spirit into, or even the closure of a chapter she fought for but ultimately had to surrender. Others felt certain that the grief was more personal and immediate, something connected to family ties, shared memories, and the emotional landscape she had been navigating ever since Garrison's tragic death left a permanent scar on her family's story. As the online conversation expanded, viewers began revisiting old episodes, piecing together all the times Janelle hinted at feeling isolated, overwhelmed, or silently heartbroken, and many realized that she had been carrying far more than the audience ever understood in real time. Her heartbreak now seemed like the culmination of years of emotional weight compacted into one tender admission, a vulnerable truth she could no longer keep tucked away. Fans also admired the dignified way she expressed her grief, avoiding sensationalism or blame, choosing instead to speak with raw honesty that resonated deeply in an era where social media often rewards superficial perfection over real emotional truth. Her vulnerability reminded viewers of why she has remained one of the most beloved members of the Sister Wives cast. She is real, steady, imperfect, resilient, and profoundly relatable. This newest heartbreaking loss, as painful as it was, showcased the depth of her humanity. The mother, the survivor, the woman who keeps showing up even when the world feels unbearably heavy. The emotional shockwave of her post continues to ripple outward as fans rally around her, sending messages of love, support, and light to counterbalance the darkness she confessed to feeling. And although the loss she shared remains a deeply personal wound, one that may take months or years to fully process, the overwhelming response from viewers proves one thing with absolute clarity: Janelle Brown is not walking through this heartbreak alone. Her fans, the people who watched her weather storm after storm with grace and grit, are standing with her once again, giving back the love she has quietly given the world for over a decade. In the end, her heartbreaking loss became more than a moment of sorrow. It became a testament to her strength, a reminder of her humanity, and a powerful chapter in the continuing story of a woman who has learned, over and over, that even in grief there can be connection, healing, and unexpected community. As the days passed after Janelle's heartbreaking announcement, the conversation surrounding her loss only grew deeper, revealing just how profoundly she has impacted viewers who have followed her journey for more than a decade. Watching her shift from a woman trying to maintain a fragile balance within a collapsing plural family to someone who is slowly redefining her identity outside the shadow of Cody Brown and the emotional chaos that followed him wherever he went. For many fans, the timing of her heartbreak felt especially poignant. coming during a chapter of her life when she had finally started embracing joy again, traveling more freely, reconnecting with her adult children, investing in her physical and emotional well-being, and exploring a future built entirely on her own terms. Yet grief, as it often does, appeared without warning, reminding her and everyone watching that healing is never linear. Each supportive message from fans carried its own warmth, but people couldn't help noticing that Janelle's responses were softer, quieter, as if she were tiptoeing through her own emotional landscape, trying not to disturb a wound still too fresh to fully face. Her silence wasn't cold or distant. Rather, it felt contemplative, the silence of someone who is processing a loss by wrapping layers of introspection around it before letting the world in. Many viewers also felt that Janelle's heartbreak carried a symbolic weight for the entire Sister Wives fandom, marking another reminder of how deeply the Brown family fractures have affected not only the wives and children but also the millions who invested emotionally in their story. It became a moment where everyone revisited the years of dysfunction that had been normalized under the guise of plural harmony, remembering how Janelle often found herself mediating conflicts between Christine and Cody, handling tensions between the original three wives, and quietly absorbing the emotional shockwaves whenever Robin entered the picture with her unique blend of vulnerability, tears, and influence over Cody's emotions. Some fans found themselves reflecting on how Janelle managed to stay grounded while navigating a life that constantly demanded compromises, from uprooting her children to moving across states, to adjusting to new family dynamics, to sacrificing her own needs so the larger family structure could function. Now, with her heartbreaking loss laying bare the fragility behind her resilience, viewers expressed a renewed admiration for her, recognizing the immense emotional labor she carried for years without complaint. Her vulnerability made them reconsider just how strong she had been all along, not because she never broke, but because she broke quietly, privately, without ever expecting sympathy or applause. And while fans were eager for updates, most agreed that Janelle deserved as much privacy as she needed, especially after the painful public experiences that had defined her past few years, including the devastating loss of her beloved son Garrison, a tragedy that will always echo through every moment of joy and sorrow that follows. Some followers speculated that the weight of her new loss may have even triggered painful memories of her earlier grief, creating an emotional ripple effect that made this moment feel even heavier. They noted that grief often resurfaces in cycles, especially when tied to milestones, anniversaries, or changes in life direction, and watching Janelle navigate this new heartbreak reminded many of their own journeys with loss, making her vulnerability feel deeply personal to them. Others pointed out how impressive it was that, even in her grief, Janelle has remained open to growth, connection, and rebuilding, refusing to let sorrow pull her back into the isolating patterns that once defined her marriage to Cody, where her emotional needs were often overlooked or dismissed in favor of the constant demands of other wives, other children, or Cody's never-ending frustrations. This chapter, as painful as it is, seems to be shaping a new layer of her identity, one where she no longer tries to mask her hurt for the sake of family unity, where she no longer tucks away her sadness behind practicality, and where she allows herself to feel deeply without apologizing for it. Fans sense that this freedom, painful as its catalyst may have been, marks another turning point in Janelle's journey toward emotional independence. And yet, amid the heartbreak, many saw strength, not the loud, triumphant strength of a woman breaking free from a marriage, but the quiet strength of someone rebuilding her spirit after life deals unexpected blows, someone learning to accept support instead of always being the one giving it. It became clear that Janelle's grief, and her courage in sharing it, had brought fans closer to her than ever before, transforming her from a reality TV figure into a symbol of endurance and emotional honesty. More than anything, the outpouring of love she received proved that despite all she has lost, marriage, trust, stability, and now something even more personal, Janelle Brown continues to stand as one of the most relatable and inspiring women to ever appear on Sister Wives. Her heartbreaking loss may have opened a painful chapter, but it also opened the hearts of thousands who were ready to walk with her through the sorrow, offering the kind of comfort she spent years giving to everyone else. And in that connection, in that shared humanity, Janelle is finding something she was deprived of for far too long. A community that supports her not because they expect something from her, but because they genuinely care, because she matters, her grief matters, and her healing matters.